Outtakes Movie Podcast. I am Sam, and we are on the final leg of our quest to categorize the objective list of the 50 best to worst movies of all time. I'm joined, as always, by my amazing team. Amelia, how you doing?
I'm good. Happy holidays. I'm assuming this will be going out in December
Yes.
when we're recording it now. So happy holidays to all those of you who are listening. I hope everyone's feeling a bit festive finally. But yeah, I'm doing great.
It'd be nice. I'm not feeling festive yet. Maybe I should get the decorations up.
Go on.
We should do it. Joe, what about you?
I mean, I've had my decorations up since like the middle of November, so you know.
Nice.
Yeah, got a Christmas tree in my living room. You know, I mean that's it. Actually, the only festive things we have is the Christmas tree. That's about it. But still festive. It's a Christmas tree.
Yeah. And Jacob, how's things?
Things are all right. They don't look very festive, but I've managed to choose like the one part of the flat that doesn't have some form of Christmas decoration anywhere.
You're hiding from it, basically.
He's in denial, that's what it is.
So for this little last leg of the journey, we are looking at John Hughes' The Breakfast Club, which came out 7th of June, 1985. And as always, we're going to go on a little pop culture rundown and see what's going on in the worlds of music, video games, and the cinema at the time of release. So in the charts, this is a really weird one. So usual story for like decades where we assume what's been going on. It's actually nowhere near as cool as we think. The odd standout single is here and there, but it's mostly just forgotten stuff. So here's things that count. Number 32 was Don't You Forget About Me from this movie.
Nice.
What shocked me was that it was falling, not climbing the charts.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was at a higher spot the previous week. So I don't know if this movie's release maybe helped it along the next week. I didn't check, but it was a bit of a weird one. But it's a great song, and it's probably the one out of this list I'm going to read that has properly stood the test. So number 12, Walking on Sunshine, Katrina and the Waves, which I cannot listen to anymore without thinking about great deals on sofas. Number 6 was A View to a Kill by Duran Duran.
Okay.
Which is weird because I don't know when that Bond movie came out.
I imagine it would have been around this time, surely, if it was in the charts.
I mean, you'd think. But it's really high, so it must have been recent. Number 6. And number 1, this is the really weird one. You'll Never Walk Alone. You know that song that the Liverpool crowd sing?
From Carousel.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Okay.
What version of it, though?
So
the
it's
actual version?
It's from a band called Bless You.
Thank you.
It's from a band called The Crowd. One of the many re-releases. It charted at number 1.
Oh my God.
Now, to be honest with you, morbid as it is, my gut instinct for this was wondering if... oh God, I can't remember where it happened now. But there was that
Hillsborough, wasn't it?
Yeah, Hillsborough. The Hillsborough tragedy.
Yeah.
My gut instinct was I wonder if that had just happened and kind of collected.
Maybe.
No, didn't that happen
It
in
was 1989 when that happened.
89, yeah.
So why it's this high, I couldn't tell you. But it is. That's our June 1985 number 1. It's a football song. In the world of video games, absolutely sod all Remarkable came out in June. So I've simply cheated. It's the last one. At the end of this year, the original Super Mario Brothers would be out. And home gaming would actually kick off. It's this year. It's 1985.
Wow.
The world of cinema was a lot more interesting. So 3 standouts. The Goonies came out on the exact same day.
I need to rewatch that.
I have not watched it in so long.
I can't remember what happens in it.
Maybe since high school, but it's a great movie. Has anyone seen Return to Oz?
No, it looks too terrifying.
It fucking is.
So no, I refuse to watch it. It looks like a child's night. Is that the one where the woman wears like different heads or something?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that clip and I was like, nah.
I saw this years ago. It was on Channel 5, I think. And I was a wee lad, and I was watching it, and there's the scene where there's all her heads in like all these little cabinets, and I remember feeling so uncomfortable that it wasn't even like it wasn't like jump scare. It wasn't like I just felt so uncomfortable that I was like, the television's going off. I didn't even change the channel. It's like straight, it's off. I'm going to do something else. No. And Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome came out.
Oof.
That's the third one, isn't it?
The one with Tina Turner.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't think I've seen any of the originals.
it's not terrible, but it's also the worst out of all four of them. So
Oh, there's 4. I didn't realize there's 4.
yeah, there's
You
four.
got the first 3, and then Mad Max Fury Road was done like years later.
Are they connected?
Yes and no.
Yeah. So the bad guy is the same bad guy, isn't he? But also he's not the same bad guy.
He just played in the original and in Fury Road. The bad guy's played by the same actor, but I don't think it's meant to be the same person.
Oh, okay.
It's really weird. So they've said that it's because it's George Miller. Is that his name? He's the one who made all 4 of them. He directed all 4 of them, made all 4 of them, and Fury Road was originally meant to be out in like 2001 or something, but it just kept on getting pushed back. They were going to film it in 2001 with Mel Gibson, but then it got pushed back, and then there was all that shit that went down with Mel Gibson where he said some stuff. So they're like, maybe not. And then they revived it kind of around a couple of years, like 2010, around that time. And then they started making Fury Road and they just recast him instead. But it's mad because George Miller spent all of that time just writing lore for Mad Max. So there's like he basically wrote, there's like a whole other script, and it's called like Mad Max The Wasteland or something. And it's just all this lore that just doesn't show up in Fury Road. And this new film that they're making about Furiosa all comes from that. Because there's like a shit ton of lore behind Mad Max that he just had for himself. He was like, I've got all this time to kill while I'm waiting to make Fury Road. Let's just type all this background shit about it. That's what there's a quote at the beginning of the film by like the Future Man or whatever it's called. And that's all bloody Mad Max lore and background stuff. And
given recent
some
events
of it's in the game, and
of like
crazy.
Franchises just keep sort of churning when they shouldn't. Maybe it's good that Fury Road didn't have so much lore stuff in. My gut reaction is to think of like Fantastic Beasts and be like, okay, these author's notes should have stayed as author's notes, not full movies. I could be wrong. George Miller could have come up with some fucking awesome stuff, but I think usually if you're thinking about stuff in the background, it's a good reason why it's background stuff. Anyway, the film we're here to talk about is The Breakfast Club. So why The Breakfast Club for our last film? So little story. When we originally decided to do this podcast, it was the very first film that we chose. We did an episode on it, and the audio was so unbelievably bad. That it was
person.
In
my defense, I had a different phone then, so
it was over a year ago.
Yes, it was. It was a year ago. Maybe I'll play a little clip of it. Maybe like just a bit.
Prepare yourselves for that, because it is bad.
Enjoy.
You know, he's like mocking Alison for biting her nails too loud. He's eyeing Brian.
That is a horrible scene, though. Oh, it goes through me every time I hear it.
It's sort of, it lasts for like a good 20 seconds as well, doesn't it?
It's horrid.
Too long.
Like, how is she doing it? You know what I mean? Like, she's biting them. It's like a proper click, innit? Like, people bite the nails loud, but like, Jesus Christ.
I was like, okay, we enjoyed this. This was good. I thought this was all right. We perhaps overanalyzed and would continue to overanalyze for the first couple 20-odd episodes of the show. I don't know. But I was like, I don't feel comfortable releasing it. But this was a good trial run. Let's carry on. And now that we're coming to an end, I wanted to revisit it. So, questions first up. Everyone except from me had seen the film before doing it for the show. Who's watched it since, but like not including for this episode?
Nah.
I don't think I have, no.
Nah, neither have I. So it's my first time coming back to it. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of nice. So we'll dive in. Breakfast Club is the story of 5 teenagers: Claire, John Bender, Alison, Andrew, Brian, from all sorts of different backgrounds that are brought into detention on a Saturday and are forced to self-actualize by their principal, which is a bizarre and cruel punishment to give to 5 teenagers. And throughout the course of the film, they fight, they eat, they smoke, they dance, they run around, they do general rebellious shit, and in the end, they all come to realize that they're all friends. So instead of breaking it down by scene, because we'd be here all day, and it's a lot of talking. It's like The Breakfast Club is a good film, but the script's more of like a play script. You know, it would work well on the stage. I think it's basically one setting. The other places you go in the school, you wouldn't need to visualize that much. I think if you did it in a theater and instead, it's all about character development. So breaking it down scene by scene, I think would be fruitless. I want to ask you one by one, starting with you, Amelia, and we'll go around in a circle. Out of all the hijinks, the bits that they get up to, what's your favorite scene in The Breakfast Club?
I've always found, and this isn't like say necessarily them getting up to anything silly. I've always found when they when they go like they all get out like the little packed lunches. I've always found that quite funny, just because like it's really playing off this, because obviously like a lot of films from the 80s are about cliques, are about different like social, like character types or whatever you want to call it, and so I always find it so funny when she whacks out her sushi and everyone's just like staring. And
it's the fact that she's got a little platform for it.
Oh,
as well.
It's amazing! Yeah. So I always just find that scene funny, because it's just like this is like, I don't think you could do it necessarily again for today's audiences, because they'd be like, this is so cheesy. Like, I feel like it wouldn't work, but like when you watch it back, it's just quite fun. And like you say, it's character and it's building off their like stereotypes, and so that for me has always been one that I've always found quite funny.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of stuff in The Breakfast Club that it's so, I don't know if it's that it's so well done, or if the actors had such a good charisma or something. Every time you see a scene like it, it's impossible to not go, oh, well, that was just a fun, creative thing. You instantly go, you've seen The Breakfast Club. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what things were influencing John Hughes. There probably was a lot of things, but now it's like, I've seen The Breakfast Club. So yeah, they all get out little bits, and you get a little bit of a background from all their different lives. So Brian's got a nice little prepared things from his family. Claire's got this sushi because she's rich. Andrew's got fucking all sorts of carbs and protein stuff because he's a wrestler and not everything. John Bender's got nothing and mocks everyone. And Alison, the crazy one, has the most bizarre sandwich ever. So when we did our first episode, I attempted to recreate the sandwich. The sandwich comprises of white bread with butter, with Captain Crunch on it, and a pixie stick on top. And once again, I have in my hands Alison's sandwich. Now, I can't remember what this thing tasted like. Now, I'll admit I've had to make some changes. So we're still on white bread. It is buttered on both sides. Mm-hmm. Captain Crunch is available in the UK, but it's fucking really expensive. So I've looked at what it is, and I've looked at any like alternatives. We have something here called Crave, which is basically the same thing. That's also really fucking expensive. So I have Tesco's own Choco Pillows, which are the cheapo version of it. And a pixie stick is just powdered it's just sugar, basically. So in lieu of having any of that, I've put a big dollop of sugar on it. Now,
God.
For video viewers, if you're interested for proof here, check out the YouTube version of this show. I'm going to open up the sandwich just so you know that really is what I've got.
Oh my gosh.
This isn't a bit.
Oh, it looks, oh no.
And I'm going to attempt to describe it to you. So a bit of bread ASMR incoming.
Ugh.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's not good.
If ever there was an incentive to watch the video, your face.
Viewers, he is gagging whilst also kind of looking like he's stepped in some shit on the ground and he's looking at it in a very disgusted manner.
So, the texture's awful, first off. Obviously, it's too conflictingly crunchy and soft at the same time. But the biggest weird thing is the butter. Like, because butter, it's kind of salty, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mixed with the sugar and the salt right in the exact same bite. It's the grimmest. That is so disgusting.
Please tell me have a drink or something to get that taste out your mouth, because I feel so bad for you right now.
Water. So there we are. So I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe try it at home.
I would recommend it, but try it.
Jacob, what's your favourite scene from The Breakfast Club?
My favourite scene, I like the bit when they've they leave and they go somewhere, and then they're having to run back and chase the teacher back and like go different routes or whatever. Yeah,
I was just gonna say Scooby-Doo.
What I liked, just the idea of it, running around an empty school. Like my mum is a teacher, and I used to go to the school where she taught. And so it meant I was very often in school when it was empty. So me and my younger brother, we'd like play games and run around this empty school, and it was the best shit. And watching this always reminds me of that, and just a good time running around an empty school. You wouldn't.
That's
have
such a
thought
lovely
it, but...
memory.
Yeah, that's great stuff. There's a fun, rebellious, and I think chaotic energy that comes from a lot of this movie, and that stuff is some of the best stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. I've not got like the experience of running around an empty school, but it is something I wanted to do. It's like I immediately understand the appeal, and what stuff like that reminds me of. It's weird because this movie is described as like quintessentially 80s a lot of the time, and I'd suggest that that's only because it came out in the 80s, if that makes sense. I think this movie is quintessentially youthful. I don't think it has things to say that are strictly just within the 80s, you know?
I agree with that, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that I related to. And it's weird because I watched it too late. You know, I watched it at 22 and I was like, yes, this is me, which is a problem. I should do something about it. But no, I definitely related to it. And it's the sort of thing that I think it's weird that we've not had something that maybe captures it as well as. But I think The Breakfast Club is currently still applicable to many people.
In such a simple
ages.
format as well, of like you say, just essentially in one room. And that's like from pretty much most of the film, and just like say watching these people develop. I feel like modern audiences require more these days as well. So I feel like you couldn't get this such a lovely little simple story nowadays. I feel like everything's like they're remaking Heathers, aren't they? I don't know if you've seen
remaking
this.
Heathers, yeah.
And everyone's saying it just looks god awful because the reason why that did so well is because, you know, it was a different audience at the time, and you know, and so like you say, I don't think you could recreate this.
I think anything that feels similar to me is in some ways, I don't know, maybe feels like they have to up the spectacle in some way. Like I don't think this movie immediately invokes comparison, but I watched Booksmart this year, Olivia Wilde's Booksmart, which is really fucking good, which is about two high school girls who are kind of outcasts, but also kind of cool. And they're just trying to get to like graduation parties and stuff. And it's what ensues along the way. And it does a lot of like high school drama, and it adds jokes about lots of cliques and things like this. It's got commentary to make on like romance and all sorts of stuff. It's a very good film. But like I say, it's about like jumping from like graduation party to graduation party, and they've all got different themes and different set pieces and stuff. And this doesn't have that. It just has an empty school, and it utilizes it very well. And potentially, I think the reason that it stands out and stands the test of time so long is because it's you use the word uncomplicated, Amelia. I think spot on. So Joe, what's your favorite sequence from The Breakfast Club?
Probably the bit where they get high, or the bit when the guy's doing the impression. He's got like the glasses on, and
it's really good, isn't it?
Doing the impression. This is funny.
Yeah,
it's funny stuff. Yeah,
I think that's fair. I think scenes like that are like a testament to the strength of the performers in this film. Like Anthony Michael Ball has been in a few things we've watched over the course of this show. He's been in Beetlejuice. We've not watched it for the show, but he was like had mild cameos in like things like The Dark Knight. He's been in Community. And every time I'm astounded to learn that he's the guy I'm looking at, because I have this image of him as cute little Brian, smoking the weed and telling jokes. And then like in Beetlejuice, he's this fucking jock who like, you know what I mean? Like he's just this horrible, horrible boyfriend. And I'm like, oh man, that's sweet little Anthony Michael, but what the fuck?
Was it Edward Scissorhands?
Edward Scissorhands, not Beetlejuice. Yeah. Same film.
I didn't want to say because I was like, is it? Yeah, weird, isn't it?
Yeah, Edward Scissorhands, of course it is. Yeah, so I totally agree. I think I think the performance is really good, and I think that scene's like a strong testament. I think a lot of the time doing like drunk scenes or like high scenes are kind of difficult, and I think a lot of the time the tendency is to overact somewhat. But in this, I think again, while remaining understated, comes across really well. Yeah. If I had to have one, it'd be the dance scene. Of course, You Are Not Alone. It's a hell of a song. It's a fun little dance. It's all sorts of good stuff. And I'm sure there's many, many more. And if you've got a favorite scene from The Breakfast Club that we've not mentioned, let us know. Comments down below. Engagement. Hey. So yeah, the film has stood the test of time, and it's been ranked among like tons of best movies ever lists and tons of awards and things like this. But it's also come across like a little bit of scrutiny, which I think is worth bringing up, which I first sort of read. Molly Ringwald, who plays Claire, also seen in every 80s movie ever. She had wrote like a little think piece, which I would recommend reading. It's easy to find. Basically, where she sat down with her daughter to rewatch The Breakfast Club, and she found a lot of the things that we've mentioned already. That a lot of its messages are standing the test of time. One of John Hughes' biggest strengths was really understanding like the plight of the youth, and still gets it. As well as how to inject fun in that. I mean, John Hughes, well known for things like 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, he also wrote Home Alone. You know, like he's really good at injecting like fun into stories. But one of the things she brings up, which I do think is interesting and worth talking about, is he understood all that, but he seemingly had this big blind spot when it came to women. This movie is very sexist.
I always forget about the pants scene.
Right?
And every time I'm like, oh my God, that's literally a vagina.
It's pretty uncomfortable. So yeah, you got pretty uncomfortable. It's not nudity, but it's, you know, might as well be pretty uncomfortable stuff regarding that. The way John Bender speaks to Claire is particularly cruel. He's cruel with everyone, but like he's particularly cruel with her. And I think it's made all the more weird that he's never really challenged on that, if anything.
And they kind of get together.
He negs her, and then they kiss, and it's like, that was a bit weird. And I also do feel a little bit uncomfortable about Alison's story, which is, she's a crazy girl, but secretly, if you just pulled her hair back, she's pretty all along. Look, and now she'll have friends. Weak sauce, man. Weak sauce. But regardless, a lot of the stuff still stands. So I asked you the last time we did the show, and I'm going to ask you all again. I think we're probably going to get the same answers, which is, when everything's said and done, they have this scene. Oh, that's actually, I'll backtrack a little bit. Another one of my favorite sequences is, there's a little scene where they're sat on the floor in this little circle. It's really, it's a beautifully composed shot. Brian asks, on Monday, are we going to stay friends? And they all say no. Come on, are you going to say hi to Brian? Come on. No, you're not. You're going to walk right past him. Things like that. What do you reckon now, a year later? Do the Breakfast Club meet up again? Do they keep it a secret, or is this a nuke like?
Maybe they start like a Scooby-Doo style Mystery Inc. team. They're all like from different. It's the same thing, really.
All they need is a van.
Yeah, exactly. They've already showed us that they can run around corridors being like chased by someone. So, Breakfast Club 2, Mystery Incorporated.
Maybe they need to do some kind of surrealist Cartoon Network like spin-off cartoon called, I don't know, The Breakfast Club Go! ! And it's just
Breakfast Club Go!
Stuff like that.
Lunch Club.
Breakfast
Club 2, The Lunch Club.
Oh man. So yeah, it's had a lot of stuff like that in it, and so one of the other reasons that I wanted to bring this movie, I'm going to get a little bit sentimental here. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring this movie is not just that it was the first one we did. When we were thinking about starting this show, it was kind of like, what film should we pick? And a lot of suggestions got thrown out there. And I remember suggesting The Breakfast Club, thinking, hey, that's a movie a lot of people like. Maybe we can talk about it. Which was bold of me to pick something I hadn't seen and assume that I could talk about it. But whatever. I didn't realize at the time, but this movie, it's not exact, right? But this movie, it's obviously, at its core, it's about 5 people from different backgrounds who all kind of hate each other, who learn to put aside their differences and grow to become a bit of a unit. we didn't hate each other before this show.
So
At least I hope we didn't.
Despised each other.
But I kind of feel like it's accidentally resonated in this way of like we've come together to do this set of circumstances from all sorts of different corners of the country, and yeah, I feel like a little proper little unit now, and I love you guys, and this has been awesome. Thank you.
Oh, I feel like we said this last time. I'm sure we did about like, would we have been friends in school?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure we all said like, oh, I think I'd have liked us to have been like, but I think that'd be a good question to ask. Like, do you guys think that we would have been friends at school?
I was a mess as a teenager.
Are you the one we would have avoided being like, oh god?
Potentially, yeah. I kind of ended up. I was a massive weeb, man. I was a massive weeb. It wasn't a good time. But by the end of high school, depending on where we would have met, by the end of high school, I did kind of fit into that. Popular people didn't hate me, but like I wasn't enough of a loser for the loser kids.
That sounds the same for me, to be fair. But yeah, it's interesting.
So perhaps we would have got on.
I like to think so.
I'd like to think so as well. So it's kind of special for those kind of reasons. What I wanted to ask was, this movie in your mind, like, do you feel like any, I don't know, kind of closer to it or any more sentimental about it or special about it since the year and change, since we covered it the first time? Or is it just a decent flick from the 80s?
I mean,
yeah.
Someone else go first, I don't mind.
I was just going to say, like, I've not watched it since we did the show originally. So, it's not, doing it originally didn't, relight a spark of, love for whatever the 80s or something. Like, I used to really like the 80s, and, I feel like everyone goes like, oh, yeah, 80s music and stuff. I don't really listen to 80s music anymore, honestly.
I'm out that phase.
Same.
It's really sad, really, because it felt like at a time there was this huge love for, like, the 80s and stuff. Even people who weren't even born in the 80s, you know what I mean? Like, none of us. Like, by the time all of us were born, like, it was nearly the end of the 90s, you know what I mean? So, like, especially our generation, I feel like, had a big kind of thing for the 80s. That's kind of died out a bit now. Like, I don't know. Like, I appreciate his music. It
kind of is when we grew up that's becoming the big cultural touchstone now. The early 2000s is the thing that a lot of people are having a lot of nostalgia for. Like, cover songs from songs that we grew up with and all sorts of stuff.
80s
franchises,
like,
movies.
2000s fashion's starting to come back, isn't it? As
Yeah.
well, like,
Why?
I'm like,
it wasn't good.
Yeah, I'm. It used to be that, like, I proper like the 80s culture, whatever, but like now, I'm not that arsed about it. It really kind of, it's fine, but like 70s culture was much more interesting, and like 60s, and they had better music. I know everyone loves 80s music, but it's not 70s music. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
It's, and I think that's what it is with this. Like, the only 80s films I'll watch are like really. They're not films I watch because they're 80s films. It's films like Star Wars and Blade Runner and Back to the Future. Back to the Future, fair enough, is probably, you could consider an 80s
That's
film.
very 80s.
But I don't watch it because it's like, I'm on an 80s kick. It's like, I like Back to the Future. I'll watch that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas with this is something you watch if you're like, oh man, I want something from the 80s. And I don't really feel myself having that feeling ever anymore. Maybe when I was younger, but like now I'm like, it's fine, I guess.
I think shows like Stranger Things have a lot to answer for that. I think that really fed into because like I said, I was watching Stranger Things when it was being released and everything, and I think that's where a lot of this whole love for the 80s suddenly came back, is because a lot of media was really being, and like you said, Sam, things from the 80s were being like rebooted, and like I think that, and like my mom and dad could never understand it, why suddenly we were all into the 80s. But I think a lot of the media we were consuming back like in those couple of years, I think it was very, very 80s.
I think it was created by a lot of kids who grew up in the 80s and were nostalgic for
100%.
it. And I think it perhaps accidentally created a bit of a fetishistic take on a decade, which is totally unfair, and I think has actually burnt a lot of us out. Like, okay, I'm going to throw this out there. Because of things like Stranger Things that are just constantly like, how cool was the 80s? Look at all these things that you remember from the 80s. Goldbergs is like a sitcom that does it. And perhaps the cardinal sin, Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we've totally burnt out on it? Because there's nothing more to say. It's just like, yeah, cool, we get it. You like the 80s. Can we do something else?
I think so. I think that's why everyone's a bit like, why is he bringing out another book?
God, Ready Player 2. Have you seen any excerpts from it? It's awful. It's so shit. It's so shit.
Oh man, I think the thing with the 80s is like, I don't know, like you saying about Stranger Things. Every time a new season of Stranger Things comes out, I'm not excited for it. I'll watch it. Like season 3, it was good. I enjoyed it.
I'm like, I'll watch it,
but it came out and I wasn't like, oh fuck yeah, Stranger Things. Like with The Mandalorian, it's like,
I can't wait to watch that later.
Oh shit, it comes out today. Good stuff. I'll watch it after this. But no, this is what I mean. I'm excited for it. I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna watch The Mandalorian. It comes out. Whereas with Stranger Things, I'm like, I'll watch it eventually.
But then again, with The Mandalorian, especially this season, has been harping a lot on nostalgia for things that we grew up with.
It has.
You know? Which...
And if you want to make something popular, quickly, easily, just play on the nostalgia, I guess. I mean, Stranger Things, that wasn't really targeted for people who grew up in the 80s, but they could watch it and still enjoy it. I think one reason why I liked it, well, I still like it. I think I can still go back and rewatch seasons 1, well, most of them, and be like, this is still good. It's the 80s, but it looks better. It just looks
idealized, like you say.
Nice effects and nice lighting, and everything's colourful, and it looks good. Because even really colourful 80s films still don't look. They either look oversaturated, like to a almost bad looking amount, or just kind of flat. Would you say? Or
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think, like, what's the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it? Not Total Recall.
The one
where he's like, there's
what the 80s
one where he's
in?
there's one where he's fighting in like a competition. Is it Running Man?
Oh, Running Man. Is it Running Man? I think it's
kind of
Running
weirdly
Man,
futuristic or something.
Yeah.
What a film.
That one, or Flash Gordon. That's a better example.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Really bright and colourful.
He's in that,
but he's not. That's a different example.
Yeah, it was the Running Man. Yeah.
Okay. That's a really bright and colourful film, but also the colours just seem a bit garish. But if they were to like remake it today, it would be more like Thor Ragnarok, kind of bright and colourful and sharp.
Flash Gordon's suit is mostly just one flat tone of red. But if you were to make a Flash Gordon costume now, it would have different shades of red and like lines and
it would be
stuff. Yeah,
just sharper and done better. Like I think that's one main draw as to why people like it, because they can do it again, just way better. I guess.
Yeah,
I think. If that makes sense.
I think you're right. I think well, my last question / thing I want to bring up would be it's a 2-part question in case you don't have an answer for the first part, which I don't. Is there anything you can think of from the time we spent growing up until now that has come out that you would consider maybe a modern Breakfast Club, something akin to it? B, do you think like it is a good idea for us to be getting nostalgic for the early 2000s, like, or should we just quickly let that one go as well?
Yeah, I can't think of a film.
Yeah, it's difficult. I can't think of anything that's stood the test of like, or at least hits those same beats of like, hey, teenagers of like every generation should check this out, because everyone kind of has that moment where someone like your parents say, hey, you should check out The Breakfast Club because I watched it when I was. You should check out The Breakfast Club, but I can't think of something that came out like when we were young that I would tell a youngster, you should watch this movie. It's good. It's a good movie.
Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. That's about teenagers and friends.
I was gonna say Sky High.
Sky High. Wow.
I was gonna
Sky
say,
High.
I've just brought up a list of movies from the 2000s that are classed as teen movies, and
Okay.
I'll read out a couple for you guys. Do you guys remember Stormbreaker?
Oh, stop. Yeah, Alex
That's
Rider.
there.
Classic.
Aquamarine, which is a chick flick that I always think back to. Bridge to Terabithia.
It's Terabithia. Everyone says that's
is
really
just-
sad.
Oh my god, yeah, don't watch it. It's the most depressing film in the world.
Have you not seen it?
I've not seen it, no.
I watched it in school. Got me.
What about Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging?
That's a great British film that I definitely want to show my kids if I when I have kids. Twilight is there.
Ugh.
There's a lot of films I've genuinely never heard of. Superbad is there.
Super bad, yeah.
It's definitely not a coming of age
Superbad.
story, though, is it?
No, probably not. That's
Mean
a good
Girls,
thing, though.
I guess is a good one for the be yourself, don't kind of go into the cliques. And that's the only one that I could kind of say is similar. But I don't think it's got as much as you say it's one of the be yourself kind of movies. I don't think it's as kind of be yourself as this was.
Yeah.
That's still very much Lindsay Lohan looks pretty hot at the end of it, doesn't she? She doesn't kind of go back to who she was. So
I wonder if maybe sensibilities have changed, because a movie that's just popped into my head for completely not the same reasons as Breakfast Club, but a movie that I would tell a kid, hey, you should watch this flick, is actually Inside Out. Not a remotely similar movie, but I think that's an important thing that's come out during our generation that I would say you should watch this movie.
I need to rewatch that. I've only seen it once. It's good.
It is. Coco as well, I guess. That's
Coco's
kind of,
really
I have not
good.
seen
Similar.
Coco,
Oh, man. It's good.
Really good.
movie.
Oh yeah, it's a good film. It's good for dealing with other themes, I think, which is quite good. Yeah.
And how do you feel about 2000s nostalgia? And actually, is there anything from your childhood that you would not bring back? Absolutely do not do it.
I'm gonna have to do another Google because I can't think.
I can imagine that there's some stuff that they could bring back and it would just be bad, but also you'd kind of like to see it. Imagine a reboot live action Biker Mice from Mars.
Holy shit.
Whoa.
Yeah, don't do that, but I would buy a ticket.
I don't want to see that, but also I would go and see it.
God, have you guys
It's
seen
one of those things
Clifford?
where
Oh, I've seen the
Oh,
pictures.
the-
This
You
film.
seen the
Yeah.
picture? It's terrifying.
God, that movie looks so stupid.
You look like that.
the only thing I could think of that what it was probably nostalgic 2000s for me, but it's me personally, and it's British mostly because I don't think they sold them in America. That I could not see them bringing back, even though they've attempted to. Action Man. Imagine.
God,
I
Joey's not made a
can't
comeback.
imagine. What?
He's not made a comeback, has he? When you think about it. At
No.
all?
Well, they tried to do it when I was in. I remember they tried to when I was in year 4, and they tried to make it really techie, and it was really shit,
I remember that.
and I hated it. But that's the only thing I can think of that I'd hate it if they brought it back. I wouldn't watch it because it's a kid thing anyway. I'd be curious, but I just don't think.
I wonder if,
something that could fit
One of the
now.
the biggest things that have changed regarding a lot of the stuff that came out from when we were kids was if you compare the way superhero movies have changed things, Marvel in particular, if you've got all this ridiculous amount of content to consume, all these MCU movies, Marvel TV shows, Marvel cartoons, Marvel Rising, all this ridiculous amount of stuff, and that's just one comic book company. And then someone comes along and they're like, so he's a bloke and he's a soldier and he's got a big car. You're kind of looking at him and you're looking at Captain America and you're like, I'm going to stick with Captain America. He's friends with Spider-Man. You know what I mean? I wonder if, Action Man in particular, because Action Man was an offshoot of G.I. Joe, which has also kind of failed to come back. Just a military group with slightly exaggerated gear. I don't think that holds up against your X-Men's and your Iron Man's and your Batman's and your I think that's totally changed.
Unless it's already pre-existing, like James Bond. He's just that's just spy, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
But even then, is that not more of a dad's franchise than?
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I suppose. I mean, G.I. Joe, they're bringing that back again, aren't they?
They want to.
God, are they?
They want to.
Why?
They're trying to, because it makes money, I guess, and you can. Put
Oh my God.
Does it though?
on it.
Does it make money?
I've gone on the Entertainer's website. So the Entertainer, for those of you listening from where else, is basically a toy shop in the UK, just to see like what, like you say, what do kids buy these days? And they have a whole section saying retro toy revival with a picture of a Rubik's Cube, and all that's in it is like a Rubik's Cube, Sylvanian families. Do you remember that board where you'd have like a marble and you'd have to go across the bridge that was all rickety, and then you'd have to try and shoot it into something to swing it round? There's one of them. Uno, Lego, apparently, Monopoly, Operation. It's like all these old things like Connects. Do you remember Connects?
Oh,
God.
Great stuff.
Yo-Yo, apparently that's retro.
Connects the movie.
Was that to rival the Playmobil one? Well, if you get that, then I want a Polly Pocket the movie.
Remember that advert, the Connects advert, where he like stole some guy's sunglasses with this big Connects?
I do.
I feel like
do you
I
remember
remember that.
Do you remember the one where the kid had the Connects suit of armor? It looked like the thing from Alien.
No.
I've not seen that.
Brilliant.
He bursts through. There's like a big roller coaster, and like, look at this amazing roller coaster that I built. And then this other kid bursts through the door, and he's got like a big power armor made of Connects.
Oh my God.
Oh.
There's
I'm
like a
gonna
big
have to
light
look
behind
that
him.
That is ringing some bells.
I've met the guy who directed that.
Oh,
Amazing.
He's a bit full of himself. That's all I'll say.
It is Twitter bio. Yes, I'm that guy who directed that amazing Connects advert that one time.
Okay. I don't think this will get me in trouble, right? I'll tell you what he told us. What's that? Fuck. Okay, there's a British movie director. He does things like I, Daniel Blake, and it was called there's one named after a bird. Kez, yeah.
Oh my God, what's his name?
I can't remember what he's called, but he's a good
Google it.
director. He talks a lot about like poverty and stuff, and like the north of England, and it's gritty, it's real shit. It's not really my thing, but he's good at what he does, right? I remember this guy,
Ken Loach. Carry on.
Ken Loach. This guy who did the Connects thing, saying, yeah, so if you came up to me and you said, I want you to make a Ken Loach film, I can make a Ken Loach film, no problem. And like he just started listing like all these directors that you can just like adapt to the style of, yep, I can do that for you, not an issue. And I'm like, could you? Okay.
You directed a Connects advert.
Like, that's all I'll say. That's all. I don't think that can get me in trouble.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think perhaps one of the things that we've come to terms with is that they probably are going to try and revive a lot of stuff from when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Unlike the 80s, which still had an air of maybe a bit more creativity about it, a lot of our stuff was a lot more vapid. It's not like that. The 80s wasn't. Thundercats, Transformers, He-Man, She-Ra, they're all just done to sell toys. That's all they're there for. But like, they started it. The early 2000s really fucking
We churned a lot of
it.
stuff out in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I was just like looking through, like I say, I googled like childhood stuff, and there were like shows that I think had like maybe 1 or 2 seasons and then like never saw the light of day again because they were just like churning crap out.
And I think if we're likely to go into a nostalgia for that, it's probably going to be a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
See, the thing that makes me kind of sad about like our generation, really, I feel like our generation. I want to say our generation. I mean, like people born, I'd say maybe in like the 2000s up until 2010, really. That we're like when you think about it, really, like kids still play with toys, and obviously they always will. But we were the last generation, really, to not have like iPads and shit when we were younger. And that makes me kind of sad because I would have rather had iPads and stuff when I was a kid.
See, I was the other way.
Opposite
No,
argument
the reason
everyone
I say
makes.
that-
I love that.
So the reason so you get all these people when they're in the 50s, and they're like, when we were kids, we didn't have iPads, we were playing with toys. And, fucking hell, our generation's gonna be like that. Because there's gonna be people in our generation in like the 40s, and they're gonna be like, these kids are gonna be flying around on the whatever. And they're like, when I was a kid, I didn't have this. It's like, shut up. Of course he didn't. It wasn't invented yet. Does it matter that
kids get straight up like Star Wars speeder bikes now? And I'm like,
it really annoys me.
God fucking
when
point.
People go on about, it's like when you see these adverts about saying like, oh, you need to take less time on your phone and you need to spend time talking to each other. People still talk to each other. People don't spend every waking moment on the phone. Trying to get rid, it just annoys me that people are trying to so desperately to get us to stop using all this tech. You fucking invented it. Oh my god. Like, does it matter? Like, kids spend time on their iPads now. They still go out. You know what I mean? They're not on their iPads when they're at school. I mean, obviously at the minute they're not. Oh no, they are at school at the minute. But it just, I don't know.
I can't speak on behalf of current 50-year-olds, but all that time that the kids were spending on iPads and whatnot now, do you know what I was spending it on? A Game Boy. It's that much better. You know what it probably was in the 80s? On the fucking VCR player. Like, I don't know what it would have been before that, but
playing
I'm
Pong
sure
and shit.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, you would have spent a lot of time just wasting, fucking doing whatever you thought was brainlessly fun at the time. And you've forgotten it now because you're 50. Like,
yeah, this is my problem. Like,
you're old, basically what you're saying.
Well, yeah, like, because we're the last generation now to not have iPads and stuff, and iPhones and mad computers and proper game consoles and shit like that. I just know people our age, when they're in the 50s, are going to complain about how much time the kids are spending on. Whereas with, like, the generation after us, so, like, people born kind of 2010, I don't guess to now, whatever, are growing up now. They did spend, I mean, they'll find something else.
They'll find something.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Like holographic tablets instead.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we had to hold our devices. We didn't have our devices in, alright. Like, it's still, but it still annoys me when people go on about how bad technology is or whatever. It's not. It's not. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
I think we still need to be careful, though, because there are parents out there who will just go, here, Johnny, and they'll stick it. They won't spend time with their kid because they know it shuts them up.
Yeah,
that's what worries me. Replacing human
parenting
interaction.
for technology. Yeah.
I think that is something that needs to be monitored. But yeah, like you say, I think technology can help.
That's fair enough. Like, it's not something that should be, like, that shouldn't necessarily be something that, I mean, I don't know, it's a difficult thing. I don't think having, like, adverts and shit about how you need to spend time with your family, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like, as a parent, you should naturally know that, like, right, the kid's spending too much time, take it off them. You don't need to be, like, told.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah. It just seems really, like, thingy, like, oh, your kid's spending too much time.
Are a bit shit.
I know.
Well, then the kid's going to be an idiot when he grows up, you know what I mean? That's just
That's what we're trying to prevent.
I know I've told you this story, Joe, right? And I like to think that I have grown a bit in the meantime. I don't want this to paint me as like a bad person, right? But I remember watching this. It was in college, right? And they put on this viral. Note that word, viral ad thing that we all had to watch. It was called Look Up. It was a short film. It was like 5 minutes. And it was some dude, he's on his phone in the street and he walks along and he goes about his day. And then it all rewinds. And then he chooses not to look at his phone. And because he chooses not to look at his phone, one of the people he walks past, he bumps into them. And it's this girl, and it's this pretty girl. And they get married and have kids and stuff. And it's saying, oh, if you spent less time on your phone, you'd have real interaction. All this. It was really, really preachy. Note again that word, viral ad campaign. I wonder what fucking platform this is getting shared around. You fucking hypocrites. But there was one bit in it where the narration is saying, oh, all the things you do as you grow up and as you get older. And it said... One of the things said, that moment where you sell your gaming PC to buy an engagement ring. And I remember in the room going,
no.
Just did like a big outward laugh. And I'll note that at the time, my girlfriend was sat right next to me and she thought it was funny too. So. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think it feels like we've gone horrendously off topic from this movie, The Breakfast Club.
This really is like the first time.
Thanks for tuning into this movie podcast.
Do you know what? To kind of pin it back in somewhat, we've had this era that we grew up in that was extremely nostalgic for the 80s and for films like The Breakfast Club. I'll stand by what I said. I think it's a movie that's more intrinsically youthful than it is intrinsically 80s, but because of the soundtrack, because of the escapades, because of everything that's done it, it is still a very 80s movie. I'm not here to say it isn't. And it does, I agree with you, Joe, that it fits into that bracket of if you were feeling like in an 80s mood, you probably would pick something like The Breakfast Club over like a Back to the Future. I totally agree with you. And
That's how we got onto that topic.
And I think that mood is totally dead and gone. I think the idea of idealizing decades is completely past us. And the more and more we learn about history, as interesting as it is, the more and more we come to realize that there's absolutely nothing good to come from idolizing different decades. And as the media we consume starts to try and target the things that we grew up with, at least we've come to realize during this discussion, it's probably not going to be a very good time because it wasn't exactly creatively like full when we were growing up anyway. I hear a lot of stuff about like, I don't know if anyone's seen Akira.
Yeah.
No, I haven't
I
yet.
have not.
It's a pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a really good, like, it's an anime film. It's one of those that kind of transcends anime. Like anyone can watch it and get into it, and it's a decent flick.
It's kind of one of the things that immediately followed. Like it's like the second wave of cyberpunk almost. So like you got like Blade Runner and Neuromancer were the two really that started it, and then this kind of came just after that, and that kind of that's what helped develop what cyberpunk looks like even more. Like the big sci-fi city and the music and stuff like that. And
that's a really good point because so the reason I bring it up is because Akira's from the late 90s, kind of fits into that bracket of late 90s, early 2000s stuff that's starting to make a bit of a return. They want to make an Akira live action Western movie for whatever, and you know what? I love the guy. For whatever reason, currently Taika Waititi is pegged to direct it. If you've seen the film, that's not a good fit at all.
No, it is not.
I don't know why they're so hell-bent on doing little things like this, especially like when it comes to adapting anime. It's not like these things ever get fucking popular. The original shows do, sure, but like, fucking went to see Ghost in the Shell, man.
Especially westernized versions of these films.
But bringing up that point about how it developed cyberpunk influence, perhaps, maybe, one day, the game Cyberpunk 2077 will actually be on shelves and we can play it and stuff.
It will come out in 2077, like it suggested.
That's a good example, I think, of taking something established, an idea, a genre, an aesthetic, and pushing forward. We don't know what the quality of that game is going to be like, but currently I think it's fair to say that it's probably going to be pretty good. And instead of seeing Beyblade the movie, perhaps another spinning top. No, that was a bad example. Okay, what I'm saying is, if you're going to take things from our childhoods, don't adapt them directly. Maybe just take the themes and the styles and the aesthetics, but leave the old stuff alone and get creative with it. So, I'm going to get us slightly more on the rails. That brings us to the segment of the show where we're going to give our final thoughts on The Breakfast Club and life and pop culture, man. What a wild time. And each individually give it a score out of 10. And I'm going to use maths to see where it ranks on a list of best to worst movies of all time. Amelia, kick us off.
I can't even remember what I gave this the first time around.
I can't really
I'm not going to lie. So I probably completely changed, but oh well, you never heard the original anyway. Like we said, I haven't revisited this film since we watched it. I'm sure none of you guys have either. And so like you say, I think it's good. I think it's a good film, but it's not necessarily one of the ones I reach for on the DVD shelf and go, I want to watch that. So I think for me, I can't give it any more than a 6. Just because I think it's good. I think it's got, some good messages, but I'm just not going to reach for it every time to watch instantly. But it's a good film.
Jacob?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Amelia just said. It's good, and it's got some good bits in it. Yeah, it's good. I've been doing this for 50 odd episodes, and I'm stumped by saying, "Oh, this film, it's good."
That's how I felt when we were doing Fargo.
Yeah. I mean, it is a classic, of course it is, but also it's not one of my favorite films. It's not. I'm gonna go 7. I think.
Joe?
Yeah, good. I mean, as far as 80s films go, it's not the best, but it's also not the worst. It's probably pretty high up there. I understand why there is nostalgia for people in the 80s. Like, my parents really like this film. I get it. It makes sense. If there was a film like this, of this kind, and we've already discussed that the 2000s was pretty shite, but, like, the thingy... I get why there's some nostalgia behind it. It's got messages that, stands through, carries on, whatever. But, me personally, I can't imagine this will be the last time I watch it, but I don't think I'm going to be jumping it. I'm not going to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, you know what? I want to fancy the Breakfast Club. I feel like the next time I watch it is going to be one of those, oh, it's just on kind of situations. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm ever going to own a physical copy of it. Don't think I'm ever going to choose to watch it on a... I might do. I don't know. Who knows? I might get an 80s kick again. Who knows? But yeah. So, it's good. I'll give it a 6.
6? Fair. I'm going to be pretty generous. I think from memory I gave it a pretty middling review the last time. Like we've all said, it's good. It's good. I hesitate to guess that a lot of the people that pick it on their like top 100 movies of all time lists and things like this were probably of the right age when it came out. I am a lot more fond of the things that this has inspired than it. But for sentimental reasons, for what it kind of represents for us doing this show, I feel very fondly of it. I get a fresh kind of just a boost of serotonin when I listen to its soundtrack, and I think about it, and I think about its fun scenes. And I too wish I could Scooby-Doo my way through an empty school, because that seems like it'd be a fun time. For purely sentimental reasons, I'm going to give it a 9, because I feel like it's special to me. But yeah, as a film, it's pretty alright. Which gives us an overall score of 70 out of 100. Wow, what a weird movie. It means I have to ask you all one question. Do you prefer The Breakfast Club, or do you prefer My Neighbor Totoro?
My Neighbor Totoro.
Jacob?
Breakfast Club, uncle.
There you go.
Well, I mean, there's mine. Mine's Breakfast Club.
We'll
Just throw it out there.
Yeah, a little bit of subliminal messaging there. I'm gonna go Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club. Yeah. Oh god, I did gain a lot of fondness for Totoro when we did that episode, but I think I'm gonna go for The Breakfast Club as well, which places it as the 26th greatest movie of all time.
I think that's fair.
So now I want to give us the full list. A little breakdown.
Ooh, okay.
Top 25.
I'm ready.
Top,
lay it on me.
and the bottom. You let me guys know. Do you want first the 25 best films or the 25 worst?
Worst. 25 worst.
Yeah, do the
Worst.
bad ones.
Okay, starting off. These are the worst movies of all time. Number 25. I won't do an epic voice every single time. That's lame. It's a lot of films. Okay, so in the worst category, kicking us off, is The Breakfast Club.
Yep.
My Neighbor Totoro, below that. Treasure Planet.
Oh.
Robbed.
I Am Legend.
I feel like this whole list is going to make us groan. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, the mistake we made was thinking this show was we were gonna keep it going for longer. So we picked a lot of good movies for a really long time, and now we've got to say that they're shit. So I Am Legend, Shin Godzilla,
Yeah, quite like that.
Dread.
Oh, that needs to be higher.
That's depressing.
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Oh.
Man, that needs to be higher. Jesus Christ.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
I can stay there.
Wow. The Vitch.
Ooh.
Oh, that needs to be higher, man.
Well, do you know what? See, I agree with you, Jacob, but I think a lot of people would agree with Joe. Like, a lot of
Yeah.
people seem to really love that movie. Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, okay.
Here's where things start to get weird. Space Jam. That's fair. Okay, that's fair. The reason I say that it gets weird is because underneath that is Castle in the Sky.
Oh.
Okay.
That was a weird film.
Yeah, Hayao Miyazaki. Get fucked, Hayao Miyazaki. Fucking Space Jam is better. Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
Oh man, why is it so low? I need to be right at the top.
Vertigo.
That's disgusting. Like, why?
That's too high. That's too high.
Joe, you live around the corner, I will walk over there and slap you.
So we are... Okay, now we're in... I'm pretty sure we're in the bottom 10.
Ooh.
Free Fire.
Oh, that's a shame.
Oh man.
So that's Ben Wheatley. Ben Wheatley's doing something weird, isn't he, at the moment? I'm sure he's attached to a project that... Hang on, I've actually got to check.
Yeah, it's a franchise, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
something, I feel like.
And I was like,
something
Ben
really
Wheatley?
weird.
Tomb Raider. He's doing the Tomb Raider movie.
Oh,
He's doing
yeah.
Tomb Raider 2.
He is. Doing another Tomb Raider movie, yeah.
Got there in the end.
Wow.
Only 50 episodes in.
Wait. Free Fire. Okay. Transformers the movie. Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Bad Boys. Twilight. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And here we are, bottom 5. So at 5, Batman and Robin.
Fair.
Digimon the movie at number 4.
Staying there.
Street Fighter at number 3.
Oof. Oh my god.
Fant Four Stick at number 2.
Oh man.
I forgot we did
Forgot about that.
In it, terrible fucking movie. And at number 1, Star Wars: The Holiday Special.
Yeah.
You know what,
That
right?
works. It's Christmas. It's relevant.
I'd say though, I would probably, out of all of those movies you just named, I wouldn't rate Star Wars: The Holiday Special the worst out of all of them.
When did you last watch it?
It's a bit of a mess.
No, it's terrible. It's absolutely fucking terrible. But it's kind of funny to watch.
Which one is worse than the holiday special?
What was the one?
Digimon's pretty
Four
bad.
Stick.
That
That was just. It was just shit and boring.
But there's Wookiee grandpa porn in this.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like Star Wars Holiday Special. At least you get some enjoyment because you watch it like, oh Jesus Christ, this is so shit that it's funny. And then
I'm fairly certain we described that movie as torture.
Oh,
it is, but it's like I don't know. Like
Mark Hamill literally released a tweet the other day apologising for it again.
I feel like I'm never gonna watch Van Four Stick whatever again because it's awful. I feel like I might watch the Star Wars Holiday Special again at some point in my life.
But not because it's good.
Not because it's good, no. Because I want to show my kids, look at this dumpster fire that they released.
That should be the first Star Wars thing you show them.
Yeah.
I love as well
Carrie
how
just singing.
you'd say that we're all Star Wars fans here. Like we're all
Sure.
fans of Star Wars. We've covered
Star
3
Wars,
Star
yeah,
Wars
I like it.
things. 2 of them are in the bottom 10 at least.
Yeah.
Where was Rise of Skywalker?
6.
Bottom.
It was number 6.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
We've done our fandom dirty.
Okay, so let's do the best.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 25, The Shining.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
Good film.
Good play. Pan's Labyrinth.
Spooky.
Okay.
Forgot we did that.
Princess Mononoke.
Ooh.
Okay.
Princess and the Frog.
Oh.
Okay.
Memento.
Weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I like Memento,
It's
but considering some of the movies in the bottom, I feel like it should be lower.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life.
I forgot we did that.
Okay.
Beetlejuice. And just above that, Edward Scissorhands.
Makes sense.
Dead Man's Chest.
Beef.
Oh yeah.
Monsters Inc. I'm sorry. Fucking, I'm looking. Dread, Shin Godzilla, all these things are in the bottom. Monsters Inc. and fucking. Just above that, 21 Jump Street.
Oh, why?
Great
It's
movie.
good, but that's like such a
so good.
Vertigo.
Oh, it's got mad rewatchability. What do you mean?
This list, it's so cursed.
I'm with a bunch of amateurs.
La La Land, Fargo, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Baby Driver. Now we're into the top 10. Okay. Number 10, Isle of Dogs, Spirited Away, Die Hard, Shaun of the Dead, Hamilton.
Oh my god!
One of the best movies ever.
Coming in at number 5. Oh my god! Coming in at number 5, Over the Garden Wall. Oh my god! 4, American Animals, genuinely good film. 3, Alien. 2, The Empire Strikes Back. And number 1, the greatest movie of all time, Back to the Future.
Okay. I think only maybe 2 or 3 of those were mine. I was counting. I was trying to see how many who's had what.
I think 2 of the top 5 were mine. Wait, what was number 5?
Oh, Over the Garden Wall.
Okay, that was mine. What, and then number 4 was American
Hamilton
Animals.
wasn't a fucking movie. Bitch.
More so than Over the Garden Wall.
No.
It's such a cursed list. Oh my
The
god.
thing is because we've scored them, right, how many of them have a score of over 80? Like, whereabouts does the first 70-something score place?
The first 70 is number 27.
Yeah, okay. So, the top 27 all are within, like, quite a close bracket. So, I don't know. I feel like they're more, we've put them, like, we've done more debating about what's better than the other one.
We were dishing out 7s and 8s like it was no tomorrow.
Yeah. Whereas, like, the bottom ones, that spans from 0 all the way up to 79. And they're the bottom ones. We need to come up with a better way of ranking these movies.
Yeah. What are you talking about? This is the objective list.
Clearly, yeah.
This is perfect. Oh, man. Okay, this was a lot of fun. And I'm glad we all agree there's no problems with this list. This was a useful time.
Everywhere is where it belongs. Vertigo.
Fuck off. You have to beat that out.
The Garden Wall is the 5th greatest movie of all time.
What can I say?
Thank you very much for watching the Outtakes Movie Podcast. Let us know what you think of The Breakfast Club and this episode in the comments down below. This is the final episode of the Outtakes Movie Podcast, but we do plan to be back in the new year with something fresh and new and exciting, and hopefully we'll see you there. So, for any updates on that, follow us on social media at The Real Outtakes on Twitter and Instagram. We're still probably going to be putting things out on the podcast feed, so if you want to hit follow on your favorite podcasting app to make sure we'll come up there. Same on the YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button, and when we're back, we'll be back. And you can also knock us an email as well, if you like, in the interim time, at the Outtakes Moviepod at gmail.com. Shoot us an email about anything.
Please.
Please
send us some ideas.
We definitely have ideas already, but we want more. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you sometime. Bye.
Time. Yeah.